All right, folks, welcome to this week's Management Moment. This week we are at another location where Stephen has been doing some food plot management, and we want to talk about a tool this week that is going to help you. If you're in an area where you've got a plot that's going to get hammered by the wildlife and it's really one of the only food sources in the area, you're not going to have an opportunity to basically keep an eye on that when you're not here all the time. So something that you can do, Stephen, is put up something like this as an electric fence.
Yeah, anytime that you want to plant a warm season planting and the deer are just eating it and won't let it grow, I tried to put soybeans in here 2 years in a row, and as you can see, there aren't any soybeans. I don't even see, I know there was one here a minute ago, but once the fence came down, they got wiped out. There's one there.
Yeah, there's one right there.
That's all the bigger
right
they ever got, was, you know, this big.
Right.
So what I did was I put up this 3-wire electric fence. Now, I spent about $500 on everything I need to do an acre. Now, once you have that, it sounds like a slug of money, but it's really not bad because this will last you for many, many years. This stuff is all UV protected. You just roll it up when you're done with it, put it in the garage, pull it out when you need it. Two guys can set it up in a couple hours.
Yeah, it's a really simple system. It's basically just these stakes. They've got a long stake on the end, on the bottom of the post, and they've got a nice foot place here where you can push them right down.
Completely portable. You can pull them out, put them back in. You get in the ground like this where it's a little stony. You just got to feel around and get it down in between the rocks and just jam it in there with your foot pedal.
And now, and they come with the solar panel.
You can either buy a separate panel. This is the charger. What you can do is either buy, this is a Gallagher that comes with a Gallagher fence, even though this isn't really a Gallagher fence system. I just bought this down at the Tractor Supply. You can go to Tractor Supply and get fencers that farmers use to keep their cattle in. You want to get one with a lot of power because you want to really zap that deer in the nose, teach them that this isn't a good place to be. And then what we do is, the idea behind the 2 layers is that a deer can come up and scoot right through there, hop over it, no problem. But with 3 of them here, a deer has a hard time negotiating this thing. The deer is feeding and he comes up and he'll explore this. What is this? And he'll hit that with his nose and realize that's something you need to stay away from. Then when he looks at it, he has a hard time getting the depth perception of where everything is, and they do not jump over it. They will, however, crawl underneath, get over this one, get tangled up. You know, there's a lot of things that it's not completely foolproof, but it works excellent. I have some clients that are using it and they have soybeans this high inside the fence and it's working very well.
Now, how long would you leave this up for? Let's say we're doing a food plot early summer, or even in the spring. Maybe with all the, like, we've had a lot of moisture here, so you're going to maybe plant late spring. You want to put this up to kind of allow that food plot to grow and you know, get the root bases and everything done. And then when would you take this down?
Yeah, the mistake I made on this food plot was that I waited to see what the deer would do before I set it up. What I should have done in hindsight was set it up immediately after planting, because what happens with soybeans is that the deer will nip that terminal off.
Right.
The terminal growth is how it's getting its height, and you've just stunted that soybean forever, and it only has a tiny little root at that point. What you want to do is get the plants to the point where they can sustain some browse pressure. Once they've reached a height that you think that the deer can't keep up with the browse, then you can take it down and let the deer on. The other thing you can do, and what I suggest, is to always have an alternative for the deer. Over there we have another acre that's planted in perennials. There's a mixture of clover over there, so they can feed there. It gives them something to eat to take the pressure off, and then we can allow this to grow. Come hunting season, take the fence off, and now you have the best groceries in the neighborhood, and you just can't beat it.
Absolutely. And especially for your soil, you know, management as well. This is on the top of a mountain. This was something that was actually, this was all trees. at one point in time, you guys had to do a lot of work to clear this.
What I did was, this is actually a 93-acre property. It was high graded 3 times, so there was nothing left here but some junk trees. But unfortunately, there are some good acorn producing trees. So I had a company come in that does chip harvesting, and they brought everything down to this field and cleared this. First I sprayed all the ferns that were in here, then we cut off all the maple and the junk wood that was here, and then we cleared it. And I was able to exchange the timber that he took for the clearing work. The clearing work is worth thousands of dollars, but I was able to work a trade. So since then, we got our 2 acres cleared. It turned out, you know, we had a little fight at the end because I wanted it more cleared of the rocks and stones.
Right.
So we ended up actually doing a lot of rock picking here. I had another contractor come in and pick rocks. I had another contractor come in and do deep tillage with a rotary tiller. And that was more to work my compost in.
Right.
I brought 4 truckloads of compost to get the organic level up in the soil because it's sandstone derived. It's not a very good soil. So it's either sandy or muddy. Right here it's real mud clay. So as soon as the sun beats down on that, it'll be hard.
It'll crack.
Yeah, nothing can grow there. So I could use actually some more compost. Now luckily I have State College right down the road here, and they're very high on composting. They get all the university food waste, and they get all the leaves. If you've ever been to State College, it's covered in oak trees. And the city collects all of the leaves and they compost them. They have a mountain of it down there, and they're dying to get rid of it. So I can get all I want and just pay the trucking to come up here and put it on.
Absolutely, absolutely. But this is a really good tool if you're new to getting into managing for deer, managing for wildlife, and you're planting a food plot and you need information and help on how to maybe clear a wooded area, or you need to know what to plant or how to plant it, and anything of that nature. Stephen Chilcote has his own company that he handles all of this information for you. It's called Stephen Chilcote Land and Timber Consultants. You give him a call. He's got a Facebook page, he's got his website, got a YouTube channel. Check him out. He will help you out. He's more than happy. Wealth of knowledge, doing this for a long time, and you know, it's produced. You can see it just from what we're doing here and through all the different management moments that we're sharing with you. So next week, we'll see you at another property with Stephen, and we're going to show you another little tidbit on how to help you manage for wildlife.
Okay, I just want to talk about this soybean plant a little bit. I just pulled it out of the ground. The first thing I noticed is that you see how the terminal was nipped off. That was probably back in late May, early June that got bit. So the soybean was only 1 inch tall at the time. Had a little bit of a hard time, but it put out 2 new branches. Got nipped off again and is putting out more leaves off to the side. It's starting to make flowers, so there'll be some very small pods on there. Now if I had 1 million of these out in this field, I would be happy, but I don't, because the deer have pretty much demolished them. But I did find this one as a survivor. The other thing that's interesting about this, there's a couple of things, and why legumes are so good for your soil. If you can see those little white nodules in the roots, okay, that's where the plant is fixing nitrogen out of the atmosphere. Now what happens is the right kind of bacteria, the roots put out a exudate that attracts bacteria just like a flower attracts bees. So it can smell that, and they'll go in, they'll enter the root hair, and they will lose their outer skin and then become part of the root. It's fascinating. And then they start to build a structure in there that can actually take nitrogen right out of the air and bring it into that root. And that feeds this plant. So anytime you're planting legumes, you don't really need any nitrogen fertilizer. In fact, you don't want it because you'll have a bunch of weeds. So the other thing I want to point out is the crumbly soil. You see how it has sort of a cottage cheese structure? That's exactly what you want to build in your soil. When you start seeing that, That's a good thing. That means that the mycorrhizal fungi are there. They're putting out glomulins. That's what holds your soil together into little balls like that, and that's where your nutrients and your moisture is stored. So that's all good. Even though our food plot doesn't look fantastic, good things are happening here, and we'll just continue to build soil and create a place where deer can feed.
And that's what a lot of food plot planning is. It's building that soil up. It may take a year, 2, 3 years until you get it exactly correct, and everything is going to flourish. And that's just another benefit of planting the legumes and seeing what it's going to do for your soil. The first year it may not be what you're expecting, but you're planning for the future.
Right, and anytime that you build your soil with legumes and get that nitrogen in there, then when you put your cereal grains down, they'll grow well and you don't have to fertilize them.
Good tip.
Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button and click on the bell so you'll be notified when there's a new video. And comment down below and let me know if there's anything you'd like to know more about.